Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Today, I have the fabulous Lynne Stainthorpe with me. Lynne is a brand strategist at Big Idea Brand Marketing, which is her own business. She's going to help us today unravel the subject of branding and what we need to think about when branding our business. So welcome, Lynne.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's great to have you here. Okay, Lynne, I know you've got some amazing experience. You've been working in this field for such a long time. Do you want to just kick off by saying what it is you've done in the past and how that led you to where you are now?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yes, I've worked in marketing all my working life, and I've worked in different sectors. So I've worked business to business, I've worked business to consumer, I've worked managing brands in big companies, and I've worked as a consultant to big companies, and now I focus on smaller businesses. So one of the things I say is the industries that I've enjoyed working in most have always been around transformation and selling dreams. So I've worked in my very first job, it was business to business, but it was marketing fragrances and flavors to other manufacturers, which of course is quite transformational. And then I moved into personal care, which was fragrances and shampoos, body lotions, skincare. And then the business that I spent the most time on was Dulux paint. And that's completely transformational, because when you paint a room, you completely transform it. And this is benefit of hindsight, but that was where I learned about two very important things that I now use daily in the way I help people. So it's where I'd always loved colour, but this is where I really learned about the emotional transformative power of colour. Because when you decide to repaint a room, you're actually saying, what sort of mood do I want to create? And colours create moods, and colours have upsides and downsides. And the other thing I learned, again, this is after I left, but the other thing I learned was, the thing about Dulux was it was a one brand business. So, and I come from a business which was a multi-brand business, and with a one brand business, suddenly there was this huge focus on the brand, its personality, its image, its style, its relationship with its customers. Even though we had different responsibilities, so there were two types of Dulux. There was Dulux for consumers, and there was trade. But it was the same brand, and there were lots of different products. So there were emulsions and glosses and exterior products, and there were lots of innovations in paint. But it was always the same brand. And that meant that there was a lot of very senior interest in the marketing of Dulux, because if the brand failed, the business failed.
Of course, and if it was a single brand company, then that becomes even more important, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, products could fail. We had successes and failures with products, but the brand was the business.
That sounds like an amazing experience, and I'm sure that's sort of fed into all that you do now with the business that you run now.
Yeah.
I love that. What did you say? Selling dreams?
Yes, and transformation.
Even if we could just, as small business owners, keep that in our mind, that when we're producing services and talking to people about what we do, selling the dream is what it's about, isn't it? You're
absolutely. And the transformation, where are we helping our clients move from and to? And I know that's big in coaching as well.
Yeah, but I think just saying it so succinctly, selling a dream, selling that dream, that vision, where they want to be.
Yeah. So I've been involved in selling the dream of beautiful hair, the dream of a beautiful room, the dream of a beautiful front door, the dream of a beautiful exterior, So
now I've become very aware of my very beige magnolia style house. I need to get some colour in here. But yeah, you're right, colour can make all the difference.
Yeah.
So So now you're working with small business owners, selling the dream. Can you just explain to the people who are listening what brand marketing means for business? Why even we need to be having a think about it?
Yes. So some small business, when they're setting up, some people write a business plan. I'd say probably most don't. And when they're thinking about, oh, what do I do? How do I get customers? They're probably focusing on promotion. So they probably then focus on, oh, what social media do I do? The thing about brand marketing is bigger than that. And what I'd encourage business owners to do, whatever size your business is to think about what brand marketing encompasses. So it does encompass what am I going to sell? So what are my services? How can I package them up? What are my products? More than that, we evolve, the business evolves, our customers evolve. So what new things can I introduce? So in the world of big brands, we talk about new product development and innovation. But for us, it's, is there a new service that I can offer to my clients? So that's around your products and services. Then really importantly, and I know this is relevant to small businesses, what about my pricing? So how do I price? How do I bundle? Do I price? Do I offer? How do I price? Do I offer payment plans? This is part of your brand marketing. Where you sell, your channels. So if you're selling physical products, you might be selling through stores or you might be selling online. Well, those are platforms for sales. Also, you might be selling, that then takes us into promotions, which is then where we do talk about what channels do I use? Where are my clients hanging out? Where do I hang out? Do I advertise? Do I use PR? Do I use social media? Do I connect with influencers? Well, that's all part of promotions. And I think it's just really important to see brand marketing as more than just promoting, because you've got to develop, what are you going to promote? To whom? It's really important.
I guess so I suppose what it sounds like you're saying is that you've got to think about the things that are important about your brand. You need to be thinking about whatever it is you're doing in that business, so whether you're sorting out your pricing or sorting out your programs or looking at your website. It's not just about what you're selling and promoting that.
And it's also, that's a really important point, because it's also getting this balance between thinking strategically, because you're likely to have a vision and you want to achieve something. So thinking strategically and balancing that with operating tactically. So what do I want to achieve over the next 2 to 3 years versus, well, what do I need now? What do I need now to bring some sales in? And what brand marketing encourages you to do is to align the two. So it's not all just tactical, it's not all just strategic. You're actually building your business, which to me is the same as building your brand now and for the long term. So I suppose that mix of strategic. So how you, and it also brings out how you're positioning your business as well.
So when we ask what brand marketing means for business, it's everything then, really.
And there's this fantastic quote. There's a guy called Dan Pallotta who works with charities, and he's got these amazing quotes about brand, and the one that always sticks in my mind is, brand is everything, everything is brand. Everything you do comes back to your brand, because you want to build a brand reputation, you want to build a brand image, you want to get remembered. And so if you're doing stuff that's not consistent, all these C words, isn't it? It's not consistent, it's not coherent, it's not congruent, then you're just confusing, another C word, you're just confusing people. So that's why I think brand is a good and even asking yourself a question, is this aligned with what my brand is about? with who my brand is for, with what my brand stands for. And if it isn't aligned, then don't do it. I remember one of my clients saying, we'd done the whole brand strategy piece, and he said, this has made things so much easier, because now when I get these calls from people saying, do you want to advertise in this, or do you want to take space in this? He said, my answer now is, yes, that's on strategy, or no, that's not aligned with my strategy. So sorry, I can't do it.
Yeah, that's a good point, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've said no once or twice to things recently that didn't feel right. It's almost like a gut feeling, isn't it? You just know that this isn't right for you, and I don't think of it in any other way other than that doesn't feel right to me. But yeah, I suppose it's because, you know, if you've got a brand, you know what works for you and what doesn't work for you, and what you should and shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, and knowing your brand. Yeah,
and knowing that if something doesn't sit within the sphere of that brand, it's just say goodbye and let it float off to somewhere else. Yeah, that is a really good point. So that's a lot then. So if somebody's thinking about their brand, there's a lot to consider there. If somebody really hasn't got a cohesive brand at the moment, you know, they're either just starting out, or they've never really got it together, or they're changing business. What should they start with? What would be, because that's a lot. They can't just do everything in one go. Because people often think, well, I've got to have a logo or colours, and is that a good place to start, or is there something more than that when you
No, that's the mistake lots of people make when they're starting out. So what, and it comes from, it's because it's what you see, because we live in the great age of brand, don't we? So what you see is that's what you see. You see a logo, you see the colours, you see the shapes, you see the icons. But actually, if you can remember that what that does is that's an expression of who this brand is and what it stands for and who it serves. So if you start with a logo before you've sorted out who is this brand, what is the vision for this brand, who am I serving, who is this brand serving, and how can you create a logo? So my mantra is start with strategy, or another way to think of it is start from the inside out. So if you think a logo and a color palette, they're really tangible, aren't they? Because you can see, you can see them, you can't necessarily feel them. But what is going to really make your brand human and make it different is it's intangible stuff. So I talk about the big three intangibles. So I talk about purpose. So why do you set up this business? Why does this business exist? And that's around who are you serving and how are you going to make their life better? So what are they struggling with? How are you going to make their life better? That's what your purpose is around. And that is going to be pretty distinctive to you, because there'll be reasons why you want to help these types of people. Then another part that I think is really important, and I get a different set of these with every business owner I work with, and that's values. So I work with a lot of coaches, so you've got the whole beliefs and values, and there's different types of values. So you can have values that come from a cause, you can have values that come from a way you want to work, and the key thing is to get to a set of values that you really believe in and that you can deliver day in, day out, because you believe in them and because they are going to shape the culture of your business. And I like to use this phrase, they're the moral compass of your business. So when the obvious place to start when people are talking about their values is, with things like honesty and integrity, but everybody has those. So what we want to get down to, so what is really going to shape the way you operate your business? And then we get into difference. So values, they're intangibles, but you can they're a way of living, aren't they? And a way of behaving, and they create culture, and they help you make decisions about what you do and don't do and who you work with. So some business owners have very strong environmental values or very strong social justice values. So that sort of thing. And then the third of the big intangibles, although it does become more tangible, is brand personality. So this directly aligns with the values. So a personality, so your brand has a personality just like you do, or just like I do. So we behave in a certain way based on our values. We look a certain way and we talk a certain way. And that's where you start to form brand voice, and where you start to form brand style and brand image. And that's where your colours come in. But until you've clarified purpose, values, and personality, I just think it's really difficult to decide on what your colour palette is and what your logo looks like. Okay. So that's my answer. Start from the inside out.
It's a very good answer, and it's actually mostly the opposite to what people do, isn't it? They sort of they do the logo first, everybody gets hooked up on that and get hooked up on what colours they're going to use, and then only perhaps some time later to start to think about the values, if they ever get to that point at all, because I think brand values thing can be quite confusing for people, can't it? When you think about values, is it a brand values very much aligned with your personal values then?
Yes, I think they are. I've been on a personal journey on this myself, actually. Because at one time I was thinking, well, these are my personal values, but if I got a brand, then this is what I want to emphasize. And in the last couple of years, they've merged. Okay. I have merged them. And the other challenge, because we all have loads and loads of values. We have loads of values. And as things change, we can change the priority of them. So I was talking to someone recently, and they were saying, oh, I just review my values on an annual basis. And I was thinking, do you? I'm not sure I do. And I was thinking, actually, that just makes sense, because lockdown has brought that home to me, and also climate change, because more and more businesses have got a value around sustainability now, which they didn't have before. But the reason is because what we're facing has changed. So I agree with them now. I think it's a good part of checking in on your brand to say, has the priority of my values changed? So the challenge I give my clients is, start with your long list, get down to 10, get down to 5, let's get down to the top 3. I'm always going for 3 things because I can only remember 3 things. I think if someone asks you about your values, you can say 1, 2, 3. You can remember 3.
And then, so value. I mean, obviously, we know that value is really important in life and business. Do you? Yeah. You would always advise to make it clear on in your brand, sort of on your website and things, what those values are, even if you're not. Yeah. Do you state them as these are my values, or is it weaved into the copy and things, or both?
I think there's always more than one way to do things. So one place you can state your values is on your about page. That's where I've stated mine. But the other thing I suggest is that, because you can have your values, there's no right or wrong way to do this. You can distill your values into a word. You can have your values expressed as a sentence or a paragraph. What I usually suggest, I've got mine as distilled into words, but then I have an explanatory paragraph about, because words can mean different things to different people. Yeah, okay. So what I suggest is clarifying what those values mean in a way that they will be meaningful to your audience as well as you, because that's how you get connection and resonance. So, because like attracts like, like-minded people are attracted to like-minded, and values attract. We know that. We know that people buy from businesses with similar values, and we know that values will put people off buying as well.
Okay, so it is key then really to make those known.
Yeah, and Some people talk about their values regularly in their social media posts. And when you're, I mean, this is something that you talk about just as much as I do. When you're telling stories about your business, your values come into your stories as well. So there's not one way to do it, and probably keep doing it and do it in different ways as well.
So the values are really important. People need to be thinking about those. And not everybody does, do they? Sometimes say to people, what are your values? And they haven't really thought about it. If you're not asked, often the values are there, but you've not really ever verbalized it. So yeah, that's a good piece of advice. You said earlier as well about the knowing who you serve when you're building a brand is really important. And I know we know the word niche when we talk about this, but I think we've both chatted about this and decided that's not a helpful term. But it is key that people do know who they're going to be serving. It's not like they're serving the whole world. They've got to have a people that they want to.
And I think that's really important because, of course, the bigger the brand, the more groups of people they will serve. But you've got to be clear. You've got to be really clear in your mind and your heart about who you really want to help, and why you really want to help them, and how you're going to help them. And that's your niche. That is your niche. And the reason to be clear is it helps people recognize that you're the choice for them. It's not just a random exercise for marketing purposes. Well, it is for marketing purposes, but it's not just a random exercise. It has a real relevance, because how can you attract people if you haven't made it clear that you are here to help them? And you can't stand for, I mean, this is not my phrase, but I think it's a really good one. You can't stand for something to somebody if you try to be everything to everybody. And when does anybody, with your clients, when do any of them buy anything that they can't relate to in one way or another?
What do they? That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. And also we change our, we all have repertoires of brands, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to be the brand and the business that is the obvious choice and the one they really want to go with. And that repertoire and the criteria we use for it might change by category. So if you think about buying food, here's an example from me. So if I'm buying orange juice, I buy own brand orange juice. I don't buy the brand leader. But if I'm buying paint, I will buy Dulux, because I know what goes into those products and the quality. So my criteria is changing by category. And this is why it's really important to get to know who you're serving and why, how are you going to make their lives better and what they can buy from you.
It's important to them then. So you need to be the top of their category, really, in that whatever it is that you offer. Okay.
Yeah, the jargon is to be their brand of preference.
Okay.
You have brands of preference, brands of rejection, so they're the ones you really don't like, and brands of indifference. And you don't really want to be a brand of indifference either. No. But if people can think about it as helping your clients find you and recognize you're the best solution for them.
Bad ways of explaining it, because when you say niche to people, that can really confuse them or send them down the wrong path, really. It's as simple as that, isn't it? Who are they and how can
I think it's all about people, groups of people, whether it's individuals or groups of people. That's what segments are. Marketing jargon, segments are groups of people, and they share certain characteristics, whether it's a mindset. It might not be age, it might be a mindset, it might be a love of cooking, or it might be it might be a love of reading, it might be that you love horror films, which I don't, but it could be, it's shared interests, isn't it? It's shared values, shared interests. You ride you ride a motorbike, don't you? So you're in a motorbike community. You might even be in a branded motorbike community.
Yeah, absolutely, and lots of people are, because they, a lot of people have got brand favourites and stick with that one
Yeah,
brand.
exactly.
I'm a Honda girl at the moment, but that won't be.
Yeah,
I'm not a Suzuki girl in the future. But yeah, so
yeah,
for now I see Hondas everywhere because I'm part of that.
yeah. You're part of that Honda community.
But things like, the Harley Davidsons have got groups across the world. That is a luxury brand, and people are really loyal to it. So you're right. It's although I ride motorbikes and I have ridden Harley Davidsons in the past. I'm not a Harley Davidson rider as such. I'm not part of that group, but there are lots of people that are. So
yeah, you might be an aspiring one.
Yeah, one day.
Exactly. And that's you know what this brings in psychologically? This brings in identity. So I mean, I talk about brand identity, and that's, brings in brand personality and colors and imagery and how we talk. But actually, it's relating to our audience's identity as well.
Yeah. Okay. So this work that you just talked about, knowing who you're serving, this has got to come quite up front, hasn't it, when people are thinking about their business? It's really, I guess, hard.
I think it's foundational. Yeah. It's foundational. And also to remember, it evolves. This stuff evolves. In fact, one of the secrets of great, I always think this is really fascinating. The secrets of great brands are they're consistent. So you recognize them and remember them, and they evolve. And they evolve because things change.
Yeah. But their values stay the same, I guess.
Mainly, you might get new priorities. That's been the new addition.
I'm thinking so they're changing, but they're changing, but retaining at the same time.
Yeah, it's kind of they're adjusting to changing circumstances and changing needs of their audience. So what's at the heart of great brands is that relationship with their audience.
So they're tuned in, really. They understand. So as their audience changes, they're at the same time.
Yeah, that's why I find it hard, because it's hard to imagine having a relationship with a niche, but having a relationship with your audience, having a relationship with your people, that's easier, isn't it?
Absolutely. And would you suggest then that every now and then we measured that and sort of chatted to people, did surveys? Is that how you test?
Yeah, definitely. And in fact, when you're starting out, that's a really good thing to do. If you want to clarify which offers you start with, chat with people, ask them questions, maybe have a questionnaire that you can direct them to. After they've done the questionnaire, you could have a 15-minute chat just to help to fine tune. And over time, that's going to happen anyway as well, that you'll find certain offers are less popular. You might want to introduce new ones. Yeah, it's constantly changing. It's
when you think you've got it all together, it all changes again.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Makes business exciting though, that's for sure.
It's true. Yeah.
Okay, so I know on your website you've got the statement, make your brand human, relevant and distinctive.
Yes.
Which is about us, I guess, isn't it? Us as the business owners. So how do we, we've talked quite a bit already now about us and our people and helping them with their struggles, but when you're thinking about a brand and us as people, as business owners and people, how do we inject that us into a brand? For instance, we just talked there about how I'm a motorbike rider, and I have now got something on my website about that. I've only just done that, but it is me, I do ride motorbikes. So that's sort of showing a little bit of me behind the scenes, I guess, but it is on my website. Is that the sort of thing you would ask people to do, to share a bit of themselves, or is it more than that, sort of injecting you into your brand?
This is really interesting because there's two things going on here. There's two layers of brand here, aren't there? There's your personal brand and there's your business brand. So that example of riding the motorbike, that's injecting you, the business owner, into it. And I think that's great. And you can talk about that in posts, and it adds flavor and distinctiveness, doesn't it? And then you get to the stage where you're your business is growing, it's a scaling question, isn't it? So your business is growing, and at some stage, other people are going to work in it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's right. Or you're going to work with associates, or you're going to outsource. And when you outsource, your brand is no longer a personal brand, because the people that you're outsourcing to have to understand who they're representing. So you've actually developed from a personal brand into a business brand. The minute other people work on your brand, you've got a business brand, which means that your business brand needs to behave in a human way as well. So I think what comes into it there is these expressions of brand personality. So I'm actually talking about making your business brand human. So you've got the people behind the brand, and you've got the imagining the brand as a human anyway. And that's where these elements of tone of voice and style and imagery come in. And being able to describe the brand so someone else can step into it, if you like.
Yes, yeah, that
does sound a bit odd, but that's what I think happens.
Yeah, because I guess you're right. Once you start employing people, get people to help you, it's more than just you, then, isn't it? And they've got to understand the brand, brand values, and what the brand is there to do.
Yeah, because if you imagine, this is the one that comes up, outsourcing social media. And some people say it's the last thing that they do. And the reason it's the last thing that they'll outsource is because they're not happy with how their voice is represented. So it's probably easier to describe what sort of images you want to use. You've got references for your colours, you've got references for the fonts, but if someone's writing a post and it's written in a different tone of voice, it's going to really irritate you. Yeah. And I guess that comes up with copywriting as well, doesn't it? That comes up when I'm working with them, because I work with a website designer on joint projects, and that comes up a lot as well, that people might work with a copywriter and they can't capture the tone of voice. So that comes back to, so injecting the humanness into your brand is getting really clear on what your vocabulary is, what your tone is, and it will evolve as well. So honing it and honing it and honing it. And as your business grows, someone else can step into that and expect. That's what happens in big brands. That's why you have brand managers. So we're taking on the mantle of the brand.
Yeah, but you've got to understand fully what that brand wants.
Exactly, and that's why you have a brand guide. You have brand guidelines, and you have a brand style guide, and so on.
That makes perfect sense, because as you know, I do a lot of journalism, and every single magazine I work for, I've got to know what style they want me to write in, what tone of voice they want me to write in, the words that they might want me to use or not use.
Yeah. Exactly.
So it's more than just injecting some of your personality, is what you're saying.
I think so. The bigger you get, the more important it is that the brand personality is understood. Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked before.
There's your personality, it's aligned with your brand personality. But if you think about really, really big businesses, so Ford was Henry Ford. So that's evolved over time, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it started with his values and his his thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay. So that sort of takes me to the next question, really, because we've talked about style and voice, tone of voice, and that leads on quite nicely to messaging and storytelling.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're a certified story brand guide.
Yes.
So explain what that actually means, and then we can talk a little bit about storytelling and why that's important.
Yeah. And you can add to this as well. So I've worked on brand and brand marketing for years and years and years. And then I came in a book club, and we read Building a Story Brand, which is written by Donna Miller. And I really love what I read in it. And I thought, oh, this just, it's all common sense, but actually it is all common sense. What isn't? But it also gives this really nice framework, and it's based on, he's based it on great storylines in Hollywood movies, you know, the arc of storytelling in the Hollywood movie. And he uses terms from pitching. So a one-liner is one of the things that you can work on within StoryBrand. And a one-liner is what's used when you're pitching a movie story to producers or funders and everything. But one of the principles of it goes even further back, and I can't remember who invented it, but it's the hero's journey, isn't it? But the common sense thing for me, and that I think is something that is worth remembering, is that StoryBrand is all based around your brand is not the hero of this story. Your customer is the hero, and your brand is the guide that will help them achieve success, in a nutshell. So your hero, your customer, is seeking some sort of transformation or some sort of element of success, and they're struggling to get there. And in that struggle, they need help from a guide. And that guide has a plan that will help them get there. And when they work with the guide, it's that guiding rather than telling people what to do. And working with the plan can help them work through their struggles, achieve success and the benefits of success, whilst avoiding the pitfalls. So that's the kind of arc of it, but it makes a lot of sense. It really fits with marketing, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And I've read the book as well, and it's an amazing book. So I mean, I've seen your LinkedIn account all the time, and I know you're a fantastic storyteller. If someone sat here right now thinking, how do I tell a story in my business? What does that look like?
Yeah.
Have you got a few tips that you could talk about?
Yeah, because there's more than one type of story you can tell. So you can tell a story about your clients. Most people do that via a testimonial. Yeah. So a testimonial, you can use a testimonial to tell a story, because that testimonial is saying, this is where I was, this is how Julie helped me, and this is where I am now. So it's got a beginning, a middle, and an end as well. But so testimonials are a great way of telling stories about clients. Case studies are another great way of telling client stories. You can tell stories about why you set up a business. So origin stories, people love origin stories. Oh, why was this business founded? How did it come about? What was the spark that got it going? So you can tell an origin story more than once and add different elements to it. The other type of stories that I really like seeing on websites as well is product stories.
Products and services that you offer.
Yeah, products and services stories. So for example, one of the people I know quite well is a jewelry designer, and there's loads of stories you can tell. You can tell stories about gemstones, and so you've got stories around gemstones and birthstones. You've got stories about how they were used in Greek and Roman times. You've got the protective qualities. So the stories, you've got stories around products, you've got stories around the origins of the business, you've got personal stories, and you've got client stories. So there are lots of ways to tell stories, and but it is, I suppose the thing is, you're always bringing people back to one thing, which is these are stories that show how this brand can help you achieve the transformation you seek, the success you seek, to overcome the struggles, or to overcome what's blocking you. What's the obstacle that's stopping you? That's what the stories all demonstrate, isn't it?
Yeah. It always comes back to what people are struggling with and how we can help them overcome it.
Yeah. And also helping you be the first choice. The brand of preference.
Not the brand of, what was the other one? Rejection. I didn't like the sound
Rejection, or worse still, difference.
Yeah. Because I've seen you also on LinkedIn. I know you're not just on LinkedIn, but obviously that's where I see you a lot. You quite often pick things up that are in the news related.
I do, yeah.
That, and you tell stories around that, which I always find really useful. Is that?
Yeah, that's another type of story, isn't it?
I just noticed it because there's a lot going on in the world, isn't it, about branding and brands, and I know you pick up sometimes when brands are saying that they're sustainable, it turns out they're not, and all that sort of thing. So that could be a good place to start, I guess, because you're just highlighting something that's happening already. If you're feeling a bit nervous about telling an origin story, for instance, that's a good way.
The stories, it's called newsjacking, isn't it? Newsjacking. Yeah, the newsjacking I do is about something I feel strongly about. So so I do it, you're right. And the ones I tend to share and ask for input on are the ones that matter to me. So they relate to my values. So I tend to pick on the ones like greenwashing, because I feel quite strongly about that. So there's greenwashing, stories about big brands doing good things. So the opposite of greenwashing, good, nice initiatives. And the initiatives could be around sourcing or social justice or environment. So brands doing good things to inspire us. Brands doing bad things like greenwashing. So yeah, and also stuff that's happening, and could it affect us as small businesses, like the Twitter takeover?
Yeah,
Elon Musk. Yeah, because lots of small businesses use Twitter, so
they do.
Yeah.
So there's lots of opportunities there. Would you suggest that everything that we write has a story to it, or does it have to be that much?
I suppose what it comes down to is what we write needs to be relevant, engaging, but I think that's something that evolves. We're not all brilliant writers, are we?
No, we're absolutely not. Yes, people do struggle with that.
Yeah, and it takes time. And if I think about over the last 2-3 years, I can remember it was really, because so many of us have worked in corporate as well, and that, I think I still have it. That there's that transition from third person to first person, and that transition from being a little bit academic or distant or detached to expressing. Some people do it faster than others, but I can remember that was my first stumbling block, feeling that I could express my opinion.
Yeah, and expressing your opinion and having that opinion, because often when you're working for corporate, you're doing a job where your opinion often isn't included. When you were, I used to write a lot of reports for the government and things, and they didn't care what I thought. I had a job to do. So suddenly having to talk about you and your life and your opinions can feel a little bit
uncomfortable. Uncomfortable. Yeah.
But I always like to say to people, you don't have to share, everything, do you?
No.
Share what you feel comfortable with.
Exactly. And then you go through, the more you do, the less hard it is. So it's that as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Start
small and move to where
little steps. It's little steps. Yeah.
No, I love storytelling. I would as a journalist, but I went from very, very corporate government work to being a journalist, and I had to convince the magazine that I applied the job for to work for that I could switch over from quite strict report writing and research-driven writing to this creative writing that I needed to do, and I was on a very steep learning curve. I just had to wing it for a little while. So that's the other thing that people can do, just try and wing it for a little while and do as best you can until they're fully there.
It is interesting, isn't it? Because it's more interesting when you read an opinion.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Even if you disagree with it, because you just say, well, I disagree with it.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, it's one post and tomorrow everyone's forgotten about it. It's that consistency over time that they start to remember, oh, that's what this brand talks about. That's what this person feels passionate about. So it's okay if one or two don't work.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you know, like say, if your brand is going to have that voice, your voice, then you need to be expressing what that voice is.
Yeah.
You do get some negative comments from time to time, but you just got to move on from those, haven't you?
That's right.
Not everybody's going to share the same opinion as us, and you just got to,
that's
as a business owner, get past that.
Yeah, I had someone the other day who was clearly very passionate about what's going on Twitter. And in the end, I just thought, I will just say politely, thank you for expressing your opinion. and then they responded politely as well. And I thought, that's really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, because people get hot under the collar, don't they? But when you bring it back down again, they're not angry or anything. They just they see a post and just respond sometimes without thinking, don't they? Or
so that was quite a lesson for me, because I thought, because they said something, I thought, what they said was, they finished off their sentence with, just look at history. And I thought, I studied history for 3 years. I do know about history. And then I thought, what's the point? So I just left it, and then I thought, actually, they've expressed an opinion. It's perfectly valid. I don't agree with it, but I'll thank them for expressing their opinion.
At least they were commenting on your stuff, which is a lot more than what some people do. So
that's right.
The fact that they've made a comment is
and it was someone I didn't know as well. So that's the other thing. So if it's someone you know, you kind of, the tone of your reply, you know how to adjust it. Maybe it's someone you don't know, you don't know what their sense of humor is like, or
whether you're going to set them off or not.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it can be a little bit of a minefield, but it just takes practice and experience, doesn't it? And then learn how to do all this stuff. But storytelling, I think, it does add a lot to businesses, storytelling.
I think so.
But the more we can do of that, the better. It doesn't have to be every single post, does it, that you tell this big story? No. Every now and then you've got to get some of that in there so people know, like you say, who you are, where you're coming from, and eventually what your business stands for.
Why you do what you do. How it helps make their lives better.
All that. How am I going to sell you that dream?
Yes.
That's what it's all about.
Okay,
Lynne, that's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you ever so much for giving us your time today. Do you want to tell people what you do, how they can work with you, and where they can find you? Then I'll put it all down in the description box so that they can go on and find you. If you just want to explain that would be great.
You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, but I'm not there as often. I mean, I'm on there, but I'm not there as often as I am on LinkedIn. My website is big-idea.biz. And there are different ways to work with me, because a lot of the work I do is on rebranding projects or branding projects, but not everyone needs a rebrand the whole time. So I work with people in terms of consultancy on a little project or a big project. I offer, if someone's a bit uncertain about where they are with their brand, I offer a review and refresh session. And if they want something in a bit more depth, I offer a brand audit. So I'm quite flexible in the way I work with people. It does actually start with, what's the issue at the moment? What's the struggle at the moment? And then what's the work that we could do to help you work through this so that you can more easily help your clients. It's all about me helping my clients to help their clients.
So you do some quite small projects with people. They don't need to come to you just for a big rebrand. It could be
No. I do get people who they just want a review of, for example, they just want a review of the messaging on their website, or they want to have a look at, some people are happy with they're happy with their logo and their brand name, but again, it's coming back to they're not too sure about their tone of voice, or again, messaging is the big one. I had someone recently who was just changing her packages and just wanted some feedback on that. So yeah, could be a couple of hours, or it could be, a 6-week project. It's all about what's going to help you move forward in your business now. What is it about your brand or your branding or your messaging that's holding you back? And let's find a way through that.
Okay, great. So people know where to find you, and they know you, so get in touch if they need some help. Absolutely. And you've got a free gift for people today.
Oh yeah. I have got a download on my website. You have to go to my website to get it, which is, it's one of the things I believe everyone needs is their style guide. So if you haven't got one, I've got a download that helps you complete yours. So it does ask a few questions, and you do get a series of emails to help you fill it in. So it's a bit more than what are my color references and what are my fonts. It's got a bit more questions about it, but then you've got it, and it's a great reference to ensure that your brand stays consistent.
So they can refer to it if they're forgetting what they need to be doing as far as style and
voice and values.
And invaluable, like you say, when you start working with somebody else in their business.
Absolutely, yeah, because then you can give it to them. Yeah, definitely.
Great. Well, thank you for that. I will link that in the comments below as well, so people can grab that from you. And thanks again. I know a few people have worked with Lynne, and she's amazing. So questions you've got about branding or any of the stuff we've talked about today, you know where Lynne is. Just get in touch.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lynne.